What's going on, guys? So, really quick, before we start the show, I do want to make a very special announcement. We are doing something kind of interesting. What are we doing? In on April 8th, that's when we're scheduled. I'm actually collaborating with a local shooting range to host a local range day for people who really never touched a gun before. If you have, you're welcome to come. But it's designed to reach brand new shooters or brand new people who have literally never shot a gun before. So if you're interested in that, hit me up, shoot me a DM. I'd love to tell you more about it. I don't want to get into too many details right just yet, but just know it's going to be a low cost event for people who have literally never shot a gun before. And obviously, I'm going to make some content, just following the event. So tune into that. Keep an eye out for that. April 8th. If you want to be involved somehow, let me know. Maybe we'll work something out, but just kind of keep an eye on that. But without further ado, Daryle Rostic, what's going on, man?
What's up, brother? What's up, brother? How you doing?
Man, I'm so good. I'm so glad you could make it. Thank you for taking time out of your Sunday. I know Sunday is normally a family day for most people, but thank you for hopping in here.
Oh man, any day and every day is. I mean, you family, brother. Like we,
I
me.
appreciate it.
We all gun family. So,
I
yeah,
appreciate it, man. Yeah, man. So let's talk a little bit. I know one of the main reasons why I was like, yeah, we got to go ahead and stop wasting time. Get this man on the show. Is you are developing an AR. What is that all
yeah.
about?
Rustic Arms, man. And so, I have always been on a journey to have equal as possible representation in any industry I'm a part of, as far as being an African American. And we have a lot of African American instructors and even FFL dealers, at least in Michigan where I'm at. But what we don't have a lot of is manufacturers. In fact, I could hardly find any. And I love ARs. I do. I know they're controversial across the country, but I love them. And the thought of making my own just made my mouth water. And so, like, I had to get in, I had to dive. And from the moment I sketched out the very first one on a piece of paper, here we are 8 months later, and they're in production and they're going out the door. So, Rostic Arms is in full effect, full production, and I couldn't be happier, bro.
That's what's up, man. Thank you for doing that. Because like in reality, there's not a lot of black owned specifically rifle manufacturers or people who are you know putting
Yeah.
out quality products for the people. So that's really cool. And as you know, that it's not easy. If it was easy, everyone would do it. So
Nah.
let's talk about some of the stuff you have to consider when you're doing this thing.
So the biggest thing you have to consider is what makes you different from everybody else who already exists, because some people will tell you that this is a saturated or even oversaturated market. Um, I tend to believe as long as you can tailor to a niche, find that right pocket of people that you could tailor your products to, you'll be fine. So that would be the first thing I say. The second thing, I have 15 years of manufacturing experience. I've worked my way up from like loading boxes and driving high lows to production supervisors to operations managers. I've worked for several Fortune 500 companies, so I have a manufacturing background, and that helps out a lot when it comes to actual production, because a lot of people love the idea, but if you have to outsource the production, your profit margins are going to be just above zero. So you got to figure, how am I actually going to produce this? There's only so many times you can pay the homies, pay the family and friends. You got to come up with a real production plan. So figuring out who to tailor it to, how you're going to produce them, sourcing parts. This year was my first year at SHOT Show, and the best experience I ever had was at the supplier showcase. Not the big vendors, not the Smith and Wessons, but the small manufacturers who produce things like safeties and internal parts and the little things that cost you when it comes to mass production a lot unless you can find the right supplier. So I would really just recommend thinking of the things that you don't think about. Is you can't think like a consumer on this side. You have to think like a producer. How do I produce the highest quality product for the least amount of money to give me the most profit and to give the best value to my customer? Oh, I don't know what happened, bro. I can't hear you.
Sorry about that. Yeah, when I think about stuff and gear and whatnot, my mindset is like as a consumer, and I review stuff, I review gear, and I know you've done the same thing. So I
Hmm.
guess I'm curious, like, what does that shift look like between the consumer and the manufacturer? Like you did say you had some manufacturing background, so that was already kind of in there. But I suppose let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, the switch is really you have to decide what like you have to make it with the end user in mind. What's gonna make them be a repeat lifelong customer? Like when you know what it's like being on the other side of it. I think consumers make great producers, if I'm honest, because you know the feeling that you desire when you open a product. My rifles are not cheap. A lot, you know what I mean. A lot of people think, and it's a huge misnomer with black people. I can't stand when people stereotype us and think because we're black owned and we're new, we're supposed to go for the cheapest. Like you can't compete in that space. So you really have to think about if I wanted to provide myself with a quality product, that I would open that box and just be like, wow, like this is unreal for the amount of money I spent. That's what I set out on a mission to create. Like I want to create an experience that when I do flip it around and I'm the end user, I'm just like, oh my gosh, now I had to pay X amount for this, but I can't believe that I got all of this for what I paid. And that's kind of the mindset shift you got to be in is how do you create that product that's going to wow your customer the same way you would want to be wowed with whatever you consume.
Yeah, no, that's actually really interesting. Like just the that economy that
Hmm.
is what it is. People, like you said, oftentimes when you see, your homies making a new company, oh, he's selling something. It's like, oh, okay, that's gonna be just something that's maybe semi white label, but maybe not even that. Just some,
Hmm.
overseas cheap product rebranded. But this isn't that.
Nah.
Talk about your process. Give us some
This is
secrets.
not that, man. This is me going to factories to figure out what product are they using to produce our small parts, what finishes are they putting on products, why do they use those finishes? Like really doing the research to understand what makes a good quality rifle, right?
Hmm.
I can think of several things off the top of my head that I was just like, I never even thought about that piece or why it's made in a certain way or why it's finished with a certain finish. And those are the things that actually you use to educate your customers onto why your product is a quality product. And I mean that's a key to it too, right? Is making sure that you just present it as a quality product. I never present as we're better than anybody else or worse
Right.
than anybody else. I let everybody else be irrelevant. Focusing on other brands that just gives away free spotlight. And I need all of the spotlight on us when we present. So really just diving in. I can't explain it enough, man. Just getting into the depths of what makes quality parts, what makes long lasting parts, right? We want people to be able to run our rifles, run our products, and 6 years from now, 10 years from now, they're running the same rifle, running the same parts. I mean, if they don't have to upgrade, like I wanted to build that entry level where you don't have to upgrade this. You can add to it, but you don't feel the need to swap anything out. That was really my goal.
Yeah. I mean the saying "buy once, cry once." That is a thing.
Oh,
Sometimes, and sometimes
bro.
it doesn't exactly apply because you buy a product and it's a name brand and they charge you double what the other
Hmm.
guys are charging. but really their product, it's all made in the same factory. And
Oh my
really,
God, bro.
and so that is the question. You've explained to me like, hey, a lot of this stuff is, a lot of these parts, they do come from the same place. You're paying extra for really nothing. And that's
Hmm.
something that we've talked about offline. But I guess let's talk about that and kind of like what you do to actually make your product better. Like, because people want to know.
Yeah, so like the process is interesting. So you go to these factories or you talk to these representatives and you actually start to learn that like, and they won't say anything because a lot of them do a lot of white label work. Meaning that whatever brand pays them, that's the product they're making. But you'd be surprised when you're walking through and you're like, oh, those are that company or those are this company. And those are they're like, yeah, and your parts are the same. You know what I mean? Like when you see your lowers running in production, back when we didn't make our lowers, we make our own now. But when we didn't, you see your lowers running in production, and then right after yours, same machine, same uh, billet material, you see another company, a big name rolling down, and you just like, oh man, like we literally have the same parts. And so that made me feel good, man, because there's brands that I trust with my life. There's brands that like the Aero Precisions of the world. And I mean, they were a huge one for me. My first rifle I ever built was an Aero Precision. And then now we're getting parts produced, and I'm like, oh my gosh, our parts, these specific parts are coming from the same factory that they're making their stuff in. And I was just like, wow, like this is dope. And understanding how that works. I promise there's really like 5 factories making stuff for everybody. And that's just kind of how it works. And then everybody puts their brand on it. And so for me to make my product better or of more value, I just want to make sure that we're using the same stuff that the big names are using. We're using the same quality of parts. Again, I'm really diving deep into finishes too. Like, what does the finish do for durability of a part? How long does that last? What does dry fire with that finish look like? Those are the types of things that I'm really diving deep into because I know that everybody who jumps into this space doesn't have the money to own 12 rifles or 13 rifles. Or some people are really in the market for that one, and I'm trying to make sure that I'm the best option available.